Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take sources you send us, dig into them, and pull out the key insights. Basically a shortcut to getting, really well informed.
That's the goal.
So today we're diving into Hollywood's financial side, the stuff you don't usually see.
Right, the hidden machinery.
Exactly. We've got this great article, Hollywood's Hidden Financial Mechanisms, MFNs, Rebates, and Incentives.
I love the subtitle.
Oh yeah, it's good. The Secret Language of Hollywood, where glamour takes a backseat to MFNs, rebates, and the ancient rituals of lawyers and finance. Sorry, Brad Pitt.
Ha! Perfect. So less red carpet, more spreadsheets.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Our mission here is to really get our heads around these core financial things the article talks about. Most favored nation clauses, MFNs, rebates, and these upfront incentives.
Now, understand how they actually affect the industry, right? Not just what they are.
Absolutely. And to do that, we really need to talk about the author first, Dr. Paulo Fontana. His experience is key here.
It really is. I mean, the article makes it clear he wasn't just observing this stuff. He spent, over 20 years right in the middle of the media industry's financial and operational side.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't just theory for him. It's lived experience.
Which makes his insights so much more valuable,
Okay, so let's unpack that experience a bit because it's pretty broad. The article mentions Technicolor Film Services, 1999 to 2010.
Right, a really crucial time. That whole analog to digital shift was happening.
He started as finance director in Rome, then became senior VP for process and operational improvement for Europe and Asia. Worked with Dr. Pino Filardi, too, it says.
Think about that finance and operations during that transition. He would have seen the core financial dynamics changing right under his feet.
From physical film reels to digital files. The cost structures must have completely flipped.
Totally. Valuing services, negotiating contracts when the technology itself was in flux. That gives you a really deep understanding of the fundamentals, how money actually worked in that core part of the business.
And then he moves on to SDI Media, VP of Cash Management and Financial Systems, working with Marcus Bucher, Alberto Biso, Mark Houtworth.
Yeah, and SDI is in media localization, dubbing, subtitling. A different beast, really, and growing fast then.
So how did that shift his view, from film processing to localization?
Well, it broadens the perspective, doesn't it? Suddenly you're dealing more with global content flows, different languages, currencies, international regulations, still finance, but with this added layer of global complexity.
Managing cash across borders, different cost drivers for subtitling versus, say, film processing.
Exactly. You see how financial models have to adapt as content goes global? It builds on the Technicolor experience, but adds that worldwide dimension.
And now, he's at Ayuno, VP of Business Intelligence for Performance Improvements, working with Yuno Yoon and David Lee.
Still in the thick of it. Business intelligence, performance improvements. That's all about using data to make things run better, financially and operationally, in global content delivery today.
So it's like this continuous thread, right? From film labs to localization to BI, always focused on the financial strategies and efficiencies.
Precisely. It's this whole journey, traditional film, localization, cutting-edge digital delivery, that really highlights how pervasive these financial levers, these MFNs and rebates actually are. He's seen them evolve.
Right. So when he talks about MFNs being fundamental at Technicolor, part of almost every major studio deal.
He's speaking from direct experience, negotiating them, implementing them, probably dealing with the headaches too.
Yeah, the article mentions elaborate rebates, and those big upfront signing bonuses were just standard practice back then.
It just underlines how baked in these things are. They're not footnotes. They're part of the financial bedrock of these big industry relationships. His background really gives credibility to that claim.
Okay, so with that context, Dr. Fontana's deep roots, let's tackle the first mechanism, most favored nation clauses, MFNs.
Right. The article calls it a seemingly simple concept.
Yeah, basically, if you have an MFN, you get terms as good as or better than anyone else who also has one, like an exclusive club, the article says.
It's a promise, really. If your competitor gets a better price per minute or faster turnaround time and they also have an MFN, then you automatically get that better deal too.
So the big studios use it to protect themselves, make sure they aren't paying more than their rivals.
Exactly. It avoids constant renegotiation every time someone else gets a slightly better term. It sets a baseline for the major players. That exclusive club idea is pretty accurate. You're inside, you get the best perks, often quietly.
Interesting that it came from international trade law, trying to stop countries from discriminating against each other.
Yeah, and the entertainment industry just sort of adapted it, didn't they? Same basic idea. And ensuring some level of fairness or perceived fairness in these massive high-value contracts.
Mitigating risk, keeping things balanced competitively, especially when the investments are so huge.
Definitely. It's a way to manage the financial exposure in a really competitive landscape.
So where do we see these MFNs pop up most often? The article gives a couple of main examples.
Yeah, two big areas. First is content distribution. Think streaming platforms, licensing shows and movies.
Like Netflix or Disney Plus making deals with studios.
Exactly. They'll use MFNs to ensure they get favorable terms on things like pricing, yes, but also rights, release windows, exclusivity, even technical specs or how much promotion the content gets.
No streamer wants to be stuck with worse terms than a competitor for the same hit show.
Absolutely not. So MFNs help guarantee that baseline parity.
And the second area goes right back to Dr. Fontana's world.
Service agreements. Studios dealing with vendors like Technicolor back in the day or VFX houses, post-production facilities now.
To things like film processing, digital work.
Right. Making sure they get competitive pricing on all those essential services. And the article adds an important point. Audit rights often go hand in hand with MFNs.
Ah, so the studio can check the provider's books.
Basically, yeah, to verify they are actually getting the most favored terms and the provider isn't secretly giving a better deal to someone else, maybe a smaller client without an MFN.
Keeps the service provider in line. Okay, let's shift gears to rebates. The article calls it the art of the kickback.
Hey, it contrasts them with MFNs. Rebates are more direct, right?
How so?
MFNs are about matching terms with competitors. Rebates are more like direct financial rewards tied to how much business you give a provider, volume commitments.
Kind of like a loyalty bonus or a bulk discount, but paid back later.
That's a good way to put it. The more work a studio sends to one vendor, the bigger the rebate check they get back, usually after a certain period. It incentivizes consolidating your business.
The article had that anecdote from STI Media. A hit show meant a huge, unexpected rebate payout.
Yeah, because the volume just surged beyond expectations. Shows how success can trigger these financial kickbacks down the line. It's not just about the initial revenue.
And it lets the service providers keep their list prices higher for smaller clients, maybe?
Exactly. They can offer these tailored, volume-based discounts to the big guys via rebates, while smaller fish pay closer to the standard rate. It's flexible for them.
And probably simpler administratively for the big studios sometimes. Fewer, larger rebate checks instead of tracking tiny discounts on every single invoice.
Could be, yeah. The article also quickly lists different types of rebates: simple percentage, stepped retrospective, non-retrospective, service-specific.
Sounds like you can get pretty creative with structuring them.
Oh, for sure. It allows for really customized deals based on volume goals and what both sides want to achieve.
Okay, mechanism number 3, upfront incentives. This one sounds odd. Service providers paying studios to get their business.
Yeah, the article says it's less discussed but happens. Basically, the vendor makes a big payment upfront to lock in a multi-year contract with a major studio.
Paying for the privilege to serve them. Why?
Well, think strategically. It guarantees them a huge chunk of business for several years. Stable revenue.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Security.
And it locks out competitors, right? If Studio X signs a 5-year deal with vendor A after getting a big upfront payment, vendor B is out of luck for that business.
Creates a competitive moat. And builds a stronger relationship, maybe.
That's the idea. Secure volume, gain advantage, build partnerships. The article uses the term eye-watering sums, so the competition must be fierce. It's an investment in market share.
And how does that work on the books? They don't just expense that huge payment immediately.
No. The article explains it's usually capitalized, treated as an intangible asset on the provider's balance sheet.
Ah, like goodwill or something.
Sort of, and then they amortize it, spread the cost out over the life of the contract.
Yeah.
Because the benefit that locked in business also happens over the life of the contract.
Got it. Okay, let's bring it back to Technicolor again. Dr. Fontana's experience there. The article really emphasizes these weren't just fringe benefits. MFNs, rebates, upfronts, they were core to the big deals.
Fundamental, yeah. He even mentions spending ages, pre-AI, wading through massive Disney contracts, hundreds of pages.
Using spreadsheets to figure out the real value after all the payments and rebates. Must have been incredibly complex.
Oh, I bet. And his win-win-lose idea is interesting. The deal works for Technicolor and the studio.
But maybe squeezes out competitors like Deluxe, who the article mentions.
Right. It shows a competitive angle. Technicolor was central back then, doing work for almost every major film. These tools help maintain that position.
So for the studios, it was about controlling costs, getting value, maybe ensuring service levels beyond just price.
All of that. Plus, those upfront payments meant immediate cash in hand for the studios, which is always nice. Leveraging their scale, basically.
And for Technicolor, securing those big clients meant stable revenue, market leadership.
And being seen as the partner for Hollywood, even while being cost-effective through these mechanisms, long-term partnerships.
And this applied across the board. Cost per foot of film, digital work, even storing film libraries long-term.
Yep, the article says it covered a whole range of essential services, deeply embedded.
But not all smooth sailing, right? The article calls it a double-edged sword. Perks and oops moments.
Yeah, the perks are clear. Perceived fairness for the big guys, price protection, maybe better relationships.
But the downsides.
Huge administrative hassle. Those MFN spreadsheet nightmares sound real. Plus, it makes it hard to offer good deals to smaller clients if your hands are tied by MFNs with the big studios.
Lack of transparency too, maybe. What exactly is a similar service for an MFN? Could get ambiguous.
Very. And the article flags potential antitrust issues if these are used too aggressively to block competition.
So what about those smaller players, indie filmmakers, smaller post houses, or they just shut out?
Largely, yeah. The article makes that point. They don't have the volume or the clout to demand MFNs or big rebates or upfront cash.
So they end up paying higher per unit costs.
Often, yes. It makes it harder for them to compete and harder for smaller service providers, too, if the big studios have locked up the market with these incentivized deals.
So these mechanisms really do structure the whole financial landscape, affecting everyone down the line.
Absolutely. They're not just legal details. They're, as the article says, fundamental tools shaping competitiveness, costs, and relationships. Critical framework, even if hidden.
Wow. It really pulls back the curtain on a side of Hollywood you just don't normally hear about. It's not just about actors and scripts. There's this whole complex financial engine running underneath.
And understanding Dr. Fontana's journey through different parts of that engine film localization, BI really drives home how central these financial strategies are.
Okay, so stepping back, the article doesn't just look at the past, does it? It also talks about the future, especially in media localization.
Right, it suggests things are evolving there, moving beyond just simple per-minute pricing for things like dubbing or subtitling.
Towards more value-based incentives, what does that look like?
The article throws out some creative ideas, like audience love rebates based on how engaged viewers are with the localized version.
Interesting. So quality pays, literally.
Or exclusive tech toy boxes, giving clients preferential access to new localization tech, or using data insights, the Crystal Ball service.
Right.
Even bundling comprehensive services with performance-based pay globalization gurus.
So moving beyond just cost per unit to rewarding outcomes and providing deeper value.
Exactly. It's about aligning incentives better in a rapidly changing field.
The article also draws a parallel to retail, mentioning Dr. Fontana's experience at Spar, a mass-market retailer. How does that connect?
It connects to maximizing capacity. Like department stores having sales, the article suggests media localization could use campaign discounts.
For what?
For getting work done during off-peak times, nights, weekends, for services like subtitling or voiceover work that might have downtime.
So incentivize clients to smooth out the workflow, keep the resources busy 24/7.
Pretty much. Maximize throughput, minimize idle time. It's an efficiency play, drawing on lessons from other industries.
And then there's AI. That's got to be shaking things up.
Oh, huge potential shift. The article mentions AI dubbing, using digitalized actor voices. But then how do you pay for that?
Right. It's not just a one-off service fee anymore.
Exactly. It talks about royalties, maybe micropayment systems, possibly using blockchain for transparency and paying actors for digital voice use.
Blockchain for payments.
Yeah.
And maybe even for sharing cost savings.
Yeah, the article speculates blockchain could automatically share the savings from AI between the studio and the client. That's pretty forward thinking.
So the old models of MFNs and simple rebates might morph quite a bit with these new technologies.
Seems likely the underlying needs, cost control, value, partnership will remain. But the mechanisms could look very different.
This has been fascinating, really peeling back the layers on how the money flows in Hollywood, thanks to Dr. Fontana's insights. MFNs, rebates, upfront payments. They're not just jargon.
Not at all. They're the tools shaping the deals, the relationships, the power dynamics, really fundamental stuff.
So here's something to think about as we wrap up.
Yeah.
Consider other industries, tech, healthcare, manufacturing, whatever. What kinds of secret languages or hidden financial deals might be going on there? What are the equivalents of MFNs and rebates? And what does that mean for how those industries actually work? For fairness, for who wins and who loses?
That's a great takeaway thought. These dynamics are probably everywhere, just hidden from view.
Definitely something to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.